In case you missed V's video or my tweet this morning, Richard Spencer has been taken out of his box once again, and that means election season is upon us. I put forward that Richard Spencer is a golem. A golem, if you're not familiar, is a Jewish Kabbalah term, which is a resurrected force of vengeance, not of spirit of man, but spirit of vengeance, created with salt and dirt of the grave. An entity created for a purpose, and when that purpose is fulfilled, back to dirt and to salt it crumbles. And that is what I think Richard Spencer is. I think that the legacy media created him years ago, specifically to use as their golem against whoever they deem the vengeance of their righteousness is. And it just so happens to be Donald Trump right now. I would like us to take a look at Mr. Richard Spencer and give you some circumstantial evidence as to why I think he is a media-created weapon to be used in their propaganda. It is quite possible that you have already heard of Mr. Richard Spencer. As we can see here, Google shows us all manner of delicious things about Richard Spencer. Rational Wiki, Wikipedia, many different articles written by and about Richard Spencer, CNN over and over again. You have The Hill, you have the BBC, the ADL, page after page after page, Wall Street Journal, The Atlantic, Twitter. It goes on, it goes on, it goes on. Richard Spencer, alt-right, neo-Nazi boogeyman, etc., etc. No limit to legacy media and mainstream media attention on this jackass. Oh, good, the old SPLC. Surely they got to get in on it too, of course. Now, and of course, oh, there we see Jared Taylor popping up already, of course. Here on Richard Spencer's Wikipedia page, I will spare you the lengthy, awful amount of information here. Everything about this man. Pretty much anything you would ever want to know about anyone's beliefs, ideas, background, everything he's done, everything he's said, his takes on pretty much everything. Christianity, homosexuality, healthcare, 14 words, everything. And look at these sources. Look at these references. Oh my goodness. It must be, what, 200? Let's see. 160 references. Look at all of these people writing about, talking about, citing this endless circle jerk of journalism all about Richard Spencer. Just look at it. Oh, Southern Poverty Law Center, ADL, not Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. It goes on, it goes on. ABC News, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Huffington Post, of course, Washington Post, BBC, The Guardian. Look at all of these journalists glad to have work. Oh, they have so much to talk about with Richard Spencer, don't they? The size and breadth of a Wikipedia page might indicate the importance or relevance to human information that a person or thing is. So, if one was to read the Richard Spencer Wikipedia page, one must think he's incredibly important, or unique, or valuable in some way. Well, I am not, by any stretch of the imagination, a specialist when it comes to white identitarianism or National Socialism. However, I do follow several large-name, we will call them white specialists on YouTube and other social media, and last winter, I began delving into what people called the alt-right or white nationalism because I didn't believe what I heard from mainstream media about them. And I found a rather delightful man, Millennial Woes. I do not agree with him on some of his ideas, but he's a very pleasant individual. And every year he hosts something called Millennial, which is where people that are white specialists come to have long-form conversations about things that are important to them. And let me tell you, Richard Spencer is not a popular man among those who are actual white specialists. And I think that he is a complete joke and a fabrication. And let me show you some circumstantial evidence as to why. Thomas Robb is the leader of the Ku Klux Klan in America. Okay? Look at his Wikipedia page. He's 70-something, around Trump's age. He is from the South. He is a supporter of David Duke and several of the other white specialists of the American sphere. But look at his Wikipedia page. It's tiny. The entirety of the leader of the KKK's Wikipedia page is smaller than the introduction to Richard Spencer's Wikipedia page. This is the introduction to Richard Spencer's Wikipedia page. This is the entirety of what they have to say on Thomas Robb, the actual leader of the Ku Klux Klan in America. Early life. 2 sentences. Richard Spencer's early life. 9 sentences, and a ton of cited information. As for the rest of the Wikipedia, there's just one section, Christian identity and Klan activities. Look at that. This is all. That's all the information for the leader of the Ku Klux Klan, arguably the most organized and powerful organization of actual white specialists in America. And here it is. Nothing. And now look at Mr. Richard Spencer, who, by the way, is a big fat nobody and has no power or influence over anyone, let alone money and politics. And then look at all this mess. Activities, public speaking, speech at University of Florida, views. Look at all this about Mr. Richard Spencer. And then, like we talked about earlier, the references. 160 references for Spencer versus 8 for the leader of the Ku Klux Klan. I think that you can already see just how irrelevant white specialists are to the zeitgeist of English-speaking information, especially in American politics, because a white specialty is such a cancer, it's such public suicide, that anyone, especially those on the right and those of a religious bent, go out of their way to eschew anything having to do with white specialization. Now let's check the Wikipedia for white nationalism. I wonder, does Mr. Richard Spencer's name show up here? Let's see. Richard Spencer. Nope. Richard Spencer's name isn't even in the Wikipedia entry for white nationalism. Let's try neo-Nazism. Well, let's see if Mr. Richard Spencer is important enough to the movement of white specialists to appear on this Wikipedia page. Oh, well, look at that. He doesn't. His name doesn't appear one time. Well, how important could this Richard Spencer clown even be then, huh? How important? Ask yourself that. If he doesn't even show up on the white nationalism or the neo-Nazism Wikipedia pages, then why is his Wikipedia page even bigger than the Wikipedia page for both of those? Why is that? Let's talk about someone who actually does something. Someone who allegedly shot up a synagogue, okay? The Pittsburgh synagogue shooting. The suspect, Robert Gregory Bowers. Now, we say allegedly because I am pretty sure that it is not absolutely certain he did it, even though I think it is pretty certain, sort of like how allegedly OJ murdered people. I'm pretty sure allegedly he's the one that shot up the synagogue, but I could be wrong, so please don't quote me or sue me. But even if this Robert Gregory Bowers person is unequivocally 100% the synagogue shooter, this is how much that he gets. That. Again, smaller than Richard Spencer's entry, his introduction series of paragraphs on Wikipedia. And this is someone who allegedly, remember, murdered 11 people and actually did a white supremacist act of terrorism by murdering a bunch of Jews in a synagogue. And he has, the entirety of his mention on Wikipedia is smaller than just the introduction for Richard Spencer. Someone else connected to white specialism is a man named Patrick Little, who I believe is a native of the state of California and who is running on a Republican ticket to hopefully be president of the United States. In accordance to him, his name is Patrick Little. He is running for the U.S. presidency as a National Social Democratic American Patriot, NSDAP Republican. Mariner by birth, husband by choice, experienced IT engineer, and USMC veteran of Afghanistan. Now, this man, a white specialist, many would say, is running for public office. He no doubt has enough power and money to be important to the system and to be known to people enough to likely have far more power and influence than Richard Spencer. So who is Patrick Little? Well, according to Google, Patrick Little looks like a real nasty person, doesn't he? Rational Wiki is the first thing that comes up. And here, where the Wikipedia entry usually is for someone that you Google by name who's relevant, they don't have the Wikipedia entry. They have Patrick Little's personal website. Scrolling down, you have neo-Nazi this, neo-Nazi that. You have neo-Nazi running as Republican, anti-Semite. You have Patrick Little hashtag on Twitter. Oh, gee, I wonder what they're talking about over on Twitter. What about if we look for Patrick Little on a different search engine, like DuckDuckGo? Patrick Little, U.S. presidency run. That's relevant. But look here. No personal website listing. This is Patrick Little that is already dead. He died in 1963. Let's look at the Wikipedia for this Patrick Little. Okay, Patrick Little, apparently someone that has nothing to do with neo-Nazism. Well, clearly, this must be a mistake, right? Let's look for our Patrick Little. Patrick Little in Wikipedia. There's only two. Patrick Little, which takes us here to this page, which is about the already dead one. And then Patrick Little, the engineer. He doesn't seem to be very important, does he? Doesn't seem to be very important at all. He's just mentioned in a United States Senate election in California. If it's even him. Do we even know? Patrick Little. Oh, there he is, neo-Nazi down at the bottom in a footnote. Source 33. Other than that, Patrick Little appears on a list as a Republican electee in California. That is his entire Wikipedia presence. That's it. He is a footnote. He is not important. He is a no one. However, because of his electoral status, because of him actually being a politician, he has more power and influence in America than Richard Spencer. And on Wikipedia, he doesn't even have his own page. But when we toggle and go back to Chrome, boop, what do we see front and center? We see not the non-existent Wikipedia entry, we see Patrick Little's own personal website where he talks about running for president. Google is deciding to give free publicity and actually push to the forefront a man who is a white specialist who wants to be president of the United States. And if they did not choose to do this, fewer people would know this man's name and fewer people would know what he is about. This is the exact kind of bullshit that has created the Golem, the poster child, the boogeyman of Richard Spencer. I hope you enjoyed my rant, and I hope you learned a little something about why it's not always the people that we hear about on the media who are influential or who are important. Oftentimes, it's the exact opposite. The reason I made this video today was because of a delightfully hilarious video by my favorite YouTuber, V, this morning. His video, entitled CNN Platforms Hate, But It's Okay When They Do It, was a great video, and it inspired me to make this one. Please check him out. Love his content. I think you will. So until next time, stay sharp and keep your eye on the golems.